Hey guys, Boris here. A new comp emerging from the APAC region has started to gain a lot of traction in the top tier ladder. Therefore, let's quickly take a look at the comp and then jump in a VOD review with Wasian Iverson. Now, the comp that we're speaking of here is the Urgot reroll. We are ideally playing this comp from some form of an artifact direction with an econ engine. Artifacts are what truly enable this comp, and also ideally going for that anima cash out. 300 cash out for one of the anima items is very strong, where we are looking for either battle bunnies, echoing blades, or shearing shortbow for the aurora. Uvu blasters is fine, but I would save my reforgers for that cash out. Whereas on the artifact front, the clear direction giving artifacts for us are the Urgot artifacts with Prowler's Call, Fishbones, RFC, Death Defiance, and Middens are going to be your best options. And generally we can use so many artifacts in this comp. Even our tanks can use the Soraka's Miracle or Horizon's Focus, and Aurora can use the Ares or Sniper's Focus. Therefore, you pretty much cannot miss when taking artifacts into this comp. For our game plan, if we are playing from a loss streak, we are cashing out the 300 anima and spiking our board on 3-5. Urgot 2 with an artifact is going to be very stable as long as you have another upgraded frontliner. But if we are playing from a tempo spot from an Urgot drop early on with slams, then we are fine to delay our level 7 to 4-1. On level 7 we are going to use the mech mod on the Urgot, and on level 8 on the Mikey mech. This is going to be quite sufficient for ourselves, and we are rolling primarily for that Urgot 3. Aurora 3 is a nice tag along, and as long as you have one of the tanks 3-star it's fine, but 2-star Mighty mech is also going to be quite sufficient. Therefore, if you are far, do not be afraid to push those levels, and on level 9 we can slot in Karma for another Voyager, and if you are on Aurora 2 you can transition your items there. Speaking of items, even though we are running a Kali, Infinity Edge is still the best item in the stats for Urgot, as simply to get the crit up there and getting that little bit of extra damage. Then we want CC immunity through QSSS. And for the last slot, any form of damage jump or AD item is going to be fine. Giant Slayer, Deadblades, Guardbreaker, all are great. Where for our tanks, if we have more of the health items, we are going to be putting them on the Maokai. Even Shroud, Warmonk's Visage, Sunfire are all right there to sort out our utility. Otherwise, we are fine to put the items on the Rust, and if you are 3-starring one of them, just put it on whoever you have 3-starred. Aurora likes your general caster items, Jeweled Gauntlet Shojin, and some of that utility holding is completely fine. Other strong augment estimation is obviously Patience is a Virtue. Expedition is quite fine if you are playing from that loss streak, you're going to be making your gold back that way. Otherwise, anything that enables you to hit Heroic Grab Bag, Prismatic Ticket are all very strong in the current meta. Also, emblems are quite neatly tied into this comp, and particularly with Legion of Threes, this is going to be quite strong. The emblems that we would be looking out for are primarily Voyager, Brawler, or Nova. These 3 emblems are very strong. We can use them as a tempo option and to stabilize our board, and later on just adjust depending on what other items we make. Regarding the positioning here, I have displayed 2 types of positioning. The general idea behind the positioning is to get your Urgot to wrap on the enemy backlines. This is going to be best achieved against ranged carries through this first positioning right here, where we are splitting their front line, nuking through ideally the weak side and then getting the wrap inside. Otherwise, if we are facing melee carries, we can be looking here at the second position where we are protecting our Urgot through our beefy bodies. Just ensure that you are not getting completely wrapped from your weak side. For the god selection, we have many units to itemize, and we wanted that spike early on in stage 4, as these 3-cost rerolls tend to struggle the most in stage 4. Therefore, we want to make sure that we are very strong there and can get a couple of rounds before we hit our 3-stars. And for that front, Kale is amazing. Otherwise, Varus, as we are playing a reroll comp, is strong, his blessing is very good, and Echo is fine as Anomaly is a good tank item as well, and we can perhaps get a Spatula to complete one of the desired emblems. As usual, this cheat sheet is going to be available in the link down below, where you all can also find all the other ones I have made. And I am working on a single unified sheet where we're going to be having all the top comps with their respective cheat sheets that I have made, a little meta read, all the strong artifacts, as well as opening units to hold and augments to look out for. Now, without further ado, let's jump in a VOD review with Mr. Wasian Iverson. Jumping into the VOD here, at this point Wasian has already hit Challenger and is number 2 in the Box Bootcamp standings, therefore this is going to be the highest elo of lobbies you can get in the solo queue. We are starting out with a Sandra, which in itself is going to be a prime unit to hold on into the current meta as it plays, and we can have a Victor right here into any kind of Shepherd AP mid game. It's very valuable hold, but this MMF is something that we would probably be consider selling here and just buying out the whole shop. We have the option to be playing into perhaps some form of a team early opener as well. But let's see how Wasian approaches it. I would definitely be at least holding on to this Ezreal, so a potential econ engine, and it seems that we're going to be selling the shop. We have a sword, which is one of the top components to be securing here. Picking up that Mordekaiser enables us to already start looking forwards a pretty strong opener, since the meta is so weak. As long as you have a backbraided backliner and some decent frontline to hold down to, you're going to be quite fine. Otherwise, not too excited about any of these holds, as the Stargazer constellation is not exactly what we're looking for. Checking our items right now, ideally we would probably looking here at an IE slam. That is pretty much the only slam we'll be considering, but a lot of players might be hesitant to make it in the current meta, and we do not exactly have the best holder. Therefore, if we could be considering looking for some form of a loss streak, as long as we are able to secure one of those time breakers. Do not want to be gambling too much. Going up on our other augment selection, we have backline blueprint. It's a little bit tricky, since some of the emblems that you can get are not that strong. Rogue reroll is not very strong in the current meta. Feed of Flames is a very nice tempo augment we may be considering. Crimea River is not going to be exactly completing an item here unless we are going for that Shojin, but if we are at the moment we are looking at potential Varus line, and a Varus is not exactly going to be wanting those mana items. Therefore, probably defaulting backline blueprint, then perhaps leave loose streaking into a Reforger is going to be the best play. Let's see how Wasian approaches his decision right here. We see some players already angling those AP lines. Going to be rerolling here, and we find a Legion of Trees, which is simply going to be a better emblem augment right here. And if we are able to hit some of our upgrades, we can potentially tempo quite well. And Breach for the Stars Jax, simply not that strong at the moment. And again, we do not have that Stargazer opener. Pandora's Bench, I have never liked it once it was moved to the gold tier. It does give us a little bit of an econ, and this is the standard opener. Therefore, econ is nice, but this is going. Emblems are generally in this meta. We just click and find, and we do get that Nova emblem. Unfortunately, do not have any form of Nova units really. Well, we have Caitlyn and an Aatrox one, but not going to be that strong to play around. Going to be holding on to the board like this for now. But with Nova emblem, we are signaling that we're probably giving up. Let's see if are we even close to being potentially able to make them. We see that there's another Legion of Trees player there with that Meeple emblem. Might also be considering either loss streaking that into some form of Reforge AP Flex. Yes, going to be making 10 gold right there. Going to be playing for that econ opener. Now, with the Nova emblem, you would be obviously first starting to think to be playing into some form of a Nova Flex. But we can already see he has pinned up that Urgot reroll comp. I believe this to be a stabler option, especially if you're playing from a weaker opener, as Nova emblem is going to be strong really only if you make it to those 5 costs. But we are going to be picking up a win here, which is not exactly unfortunate. We can see what we're talking about. The meta right now is where a lot of players are considering playing quite open. When our shops haven't given us that much combat power really in them, we are playing a quite big board. So if we end up on a mixed streak, we might be a little bit of a tough spot, because the key with these 3-cost rerolls are that they're very expensive. And if you are picking an item augment, you definitely want to be tempoing that to make those econ back, or same goes for some form of a combat option. But let's see, since we are playing a somewhat uncontested comp, as long as there's a Victor reroller, we are fine to just go for that Maokai and give up on the Rast if they're chasing that, and that should improve our odds and make our gold rolls more efficient. For our gold selection, we are playing in an Echo and a Yasuo, and since we have already locked in that Urgot comp here, the Artifact Anthem is going to be the best choice for ourselves right now. We do not really have an option to be stacking a Cosmic Hex right now, and a sword. There's so many sword items you can make into this comp that it's a more appealing option, but belt would have been completely fine. However, artifacts, especially if you get them from other sources than augments, are going to be top tier. We are not playing around a strong opener right now, so the delayed value is not going to be that big of a hit for ourselves. Picking up a Briar too, so that gives us a potential to be hopefully hitting that Belvet at some time and start printing some of that econ. Again, a reason why we are playing Urgot. Well, now we're committing that IE and calling out Urgot in the chat, but once we are playing a 3-cost reroll, we want some form of an econ if we are not getting it from our augment. Q into an open player, so we are continuing onto this mixed streak path. Now, saving HP is obviously nice, but we want to be securing some more securing a little bit more gold in any form of way. We find that Akali too, which is actually pretty a big investment. Now, thankfully, we find her at 30 gold, which is not that detrimental. this is a thing you always have to be worrying about, making your 2-star 2 costs on stage 2. They are 6 gold is a lot of investment in stage 2, and if you're unable to loss streak from there, it's going to be quite an econ hit. But the 30 gold we are fine here. Unfortunately, we queue into the strongest player it seems in the lobby, playing around that Teemo carry, and his Shepherd mid game going to be there also quite strong. But hopefully this is going to preserve us enough HP so that we are able to get to our board, even if we are going to be a little bit delayed due to the lack of econ. Now, we are not getting a component anvil right here either, but we do get a Sunfire Sled drop, which is quite neat, going to sort that anti-heal probably out pretty soon. And then we are playing around an open belt, which can become that guard breaker, or even I would probably we have to keep in mind that we have to prioritize that even shroud. We do get a single reforger as well, so we are fine to be sorting out other form of components. There are some components this comp does not use that well. Hard to come up from my top of my head right now, but multiples of some components are not that great. That's why loss streaking is also quite neat, as you are going to be securing those item handles to fish for your gloves, swords, otherwise belts and bows are quite neat. Up on our next augment selection, Trade Tree. Since we have Legion of Trees, Trade Tree is absolutely amazing, and obviously on standalone it's an incredible augment into the current meta. Obviously, if we had offered a decent econ option, it would be fine, but invested plus this is pretty much I don't recall the last time I would have been happy, considering this is an augment in 3-2, simply just to a little bit of a value. Giant but mighty is generally just decent and very heavy frontline. Something like a 6 Vanguard is the only thing that I could be imagining current meta if 6 Bastion becomes decent, but that's not within our game plan, not according with our game plan. Trade trees here, getting those item augments sorted out is going to be quite great. Wise spending is an interesting option we may consider, but it's going to be a little bit of daily value. Generally from 3-2 we might be playing it, you want to be playing this in some form of a 3-cost reroll, as lower cost rerolls you might just miss early on and then push levels and be on wise and worse odds. 1 buff, 2 buff, we are not looking to sort those Aurora items out just yet. We would rather than focus on our frontline, more frontline items, and it aligns with our open components better. Trade tree, just click emblems, we have this, and we do get a Voyager emblem, which is top tier, and we have a Primordial emblem to now start printing some of our Primordial units. That is great, going to be getting a little bit of an extra econ right back, and the Space Grove emblem. Standalone emblem, we could be tossing that on Aurora or just looking to reforge. We have a couple of reforgers, we have a little better hits that we can be hitting, particularly that Bruiser emblem, since we do not have a Bruiser Brawler, we do not have that in the comp as by default. Just getting that buff is quite nice on your whole team and on the Maokai. Opted to level a little bit of aggressively though, single gold investment, quite worthwhile. We want to be preserving our lives right now, and since the lobby is weak, we are definitely in a position to be doing so. And we have that Akali too in a Briar. We're actually opting to carry this Briar here. Simply maybe evaluating that with 2 rogues, she's going to be a little bit of a stronger carry. But we found that Belvet now that we could be considering a Marauder as well. Since I believe the idea is behind, since that we have this Nova emblem to synergize with that Kali buff, and we have that rogue for survivability, she might be a little bit better at picking off units with that built-in survivability right there. For our next selection, we could be making some econ through this simply 10 gold going to be right there, and the tier could make something like a Protector's Vow, since I believe at this point we want to be holding onto that open belt for our Even Shroud. Otherwise, Bow is also a decent option, gives us a Giant Slayer that we could be considering, and also is going to be half of that Sunder component, but it would block it in our positioning. Now, attack speed hex, are we simply going to be valuing this as a little bit better of the buff? Obviously, whenever you are playing those reroll comps, getting the hexes or any form of more power you can be slotting into your 3-star unit is going to be worthwhile. The only downside is obviously that we are going to be in lock positioning, so we will have to be a little bit wary of how we're going to be doing it. Now we have to evaluate our placement, so we're going to be placing it there. Now this is going to be good against the backline heavy lobby, which it seems to be, so we're going to be quite fine here. Queuing into this Anima player right now, another free win to pick up 4 cells, and simply by just finding a holding on to our upgrades, we have managed to turn a weak opener into a very decent one on the 4 streak right here, so we're completely fine to delay our level and make it to level 7 on the 4-1, where we simply have to hope that finding this Urgot 2 is not going to be that detrimental, and simply checking, making sure that we have the right artifacts in our mind that we are going to be looking for that for them. That's why also we're probably holding on to these Reforgers for as long as we possibly can. Do not need to be wasting them on that single emblem at the moment right away. Into the Teemo player right there. The Briar is doing quite a lot of work. Obviously enabled through that we have 3 damage emblems on her right now, and we're getting that Voyager buff as well. We have made it to level 7 here. We do get Kale's Exaltation now. That is not an artifact you would be wanting to play around at all in the current meta, therefore we're probably gripping that Reforged right there. Find the Auris, which is fine for that Aurora, but the Anima emblem is not going to be doing much, but the Brawler emblem is quite neat. Let's see if he's going to be considering it to be sufficient. Find our Even Shroud we can considering, and for our last item, we probably could be holding on to this Nova emblem for that Urgot for Brown. Going to be starting our roll down right there, able to pick up an early Mighty Mech as well right now. This is why this comp, especially if there's only a single mech player in this lobby, as long as they're not going to be too heavily focused on making their 3-star forecast, you should be quite fine. Stopping here, could have dug a little bit deeper, but simply ran out of time. Also opted to play for that 4 Brawler right now, just to get a little, since we had that Tom Kench, we are fine to greed a little bit of an extra resources from the Tom Kench. We have that HP lead to be sacrificing for just a slight give up on the board power. Otherwise, we have quite a lot of items from our augments already. We could be considering either the econ or the combat options right now. Otherwise, our item situation, we simply have to value. Well, we actually could be also gripping the Horror Grab Bag right now. Arcane Victory is something that we would be considering in a more of a stall comp, which this is not exactly it. Exiles would make our positioning terrible at the moment, so we cannot be considering have to default the big Grab Bag right now. Exclusive customization is an interesting choice. I would like to see how he evaluates big Grab Bag here against exclusive customization, given that we are a little bit lower on the gold side still. Have not found that Urgot. Portable Forge though. I said this thing pretty well. The 4-2 is the biggest gamble, but we have just so many hits that we could be going for. Instead, he's going to be evaluating. Okay, he's going to be evaluating getting this big grab bag here. We keep reforged back into the Primordial Emblem. I would assume that the idea here behind is that Portable Forge is a gamble. Big grab bag secures as a potential to make this 3-item Urgot right away. And now we can be considering starting to sort out some of the Aurora items. Reforge back into an Adam emblem. So our Reforges haven't been the greatest around. We haven't hit exactly what we wanted. We roll down a little bit just to secure our 2 stars, and we should be quite decently stable at the moment. This Urgot 2, the reason why this comp is performing so well is simply because the Urgot 2 is very good of a carry. Also, but our positioning is a little bit on a vulnerable side, as if someone has their main carry on this side. Since we have that Voyager emblem there, and a Kali or a Urgot would be receiving that hit. Evasion recognizes that and is going to be moving that to the Maokai right there, simply gaining a little bit more value and protecting our Urgot through this into a melee carry. But thankfully the Urgot went back and did not exactly get on that to get slapped by that Riven right there, and we keep the Riven with the Space Rule emblem can go absolutely nuts. And for our next god selection, another artifact item. Cryogenic Hex is amazing for any sort of a tank, especially if you're chasing a 3-star tank, and it would give us a potential to sort out either a Void Staff or an Adaptive Helm. I mean, the artifact is going to be quite gamble at this spot, since we do not have another Reforger. Another Reforger is not coming. If he's going to be a conservative play, the Cryogenic Hex is going to be quite strong, and our positioning is locked in. He's going to be going there. Another reason for why we might be considering this is that the Echo's blessing, the Yasuo's blessing at this point is going to be giving us a 12 gold. That's why going 2 out of 3 Yasuo at the moment is so strong. You have to evaluate that you're gaining 12 gold on top of that, and that's probably what's going to be tilting this decision in this favor again. As simply hitting a random artifact without a Reforger to be sparing could be absolutely useless for ourselves. So that's why the Evasion is always making these optimal choices we can see right now. Losing around here, but we have amazing HP lead secured by picking up those 2 rounds earlier on. And we find that Mighty Mech too, so we are definitely going to be quite strong at this point. It's also nice to note how he is opting to play with around this 4 Brawler. Obviously the Rast here at this point is not going to be doing that much right away for ourselves. Into a Drone Victor player that has an RFC that's That's the thing. You can sometimes miss with these artifacts and you simply have an item, but it's not going to be that synergistic as the artifacts are more niche. And we can just see how stable, again, this Urgot 2 can be, especially if you're able to juice it up. Now, we would be probably looking to complete perhaps another tank item, something like a pure tankiness item. We have an open cloak. We may be considering. He's going to be considering this is sufficient. Probably could be a jeweled gauntlet stone plate. Yes, this is going to be jeweled gauntlet stone plate. We have that. Since we have this wrap positioning right in this form of a way with the open gate, the stone plate actually gains quite a lot of value, as it generally otherwise tends to lose some in the late game. Still not that close to hitting ourselves, only on 5 copies of each of our carries and on another copy of Maokai. But this is what happens when you are able to push for tempo into these weaker lobbies. You are simply not on such under pressure. And again, the Urgot, since we have so many emblems, we have been able to make an extremely strong board with 3 Voyager and 4 Brawler, and we have just so many items on our board for our all valuable units pretty much. We are in a good spot to be sitting it right now. But still, the copies are not exactly coming. We found those Maokai, so at this point we will probably be considering Maokai 3 carry. It's interesting that he's going to be carrying that voice staff at the moment for ourselves, but it's neat since he has that little bit of an AoE, can apply it quite fine into a Xayah board. That's still on Xayah 1 as well, so that's an easy pickup for ourselves. Now the Vex player has managed to hit Vex 2, but they're still losing out to what seemed to be the Teemo reroll. So as long as no one of these 5-cost players absolutely managed to cap out their board, so we should be in a very strong position, but we can see a Shen 2 incoming right there. I also imagine the reasoning why we have placed Aurora rather than completely safe in the corner, but a little bit like this. This is because the Ori's aura simply is going to have more value and hit more units if you center your unit a little bit right there. Now we queue into someone that has managed to hit their Blitz 2 with the Xayah board, but as Battle Bunny crossbows, that is an utmost disgusting combo for anima items in the current meta right now. Tom can sprint us a little bit of extra gold. Now we're simply going to pick up more frontline tankiness for ourselves. We find that Maokai 3, and I would imagine we might be considering moving that Warmogs on him right now. The question then remains, who is going to be holding our Void Staff? Yeah, simply going for that max HP and just putting that Void Staff on Akali. She has a little bit of a splash, protecting her, moving there right back, but not going to have the much value. But we want our Even Shroud to be the strongest part of our kit right now. Into a Teemo Zoe reroll. Unfortunately, do not have an exactly sufficient amount of damage to get through them before they fully ramp up. But it seems that this is going to be a very late hit. Generally, to be on pace with your 3-cost reroll, you want to be hitting around 5-1, 5-2, as that is the timer when most players are going to be sending for the second time, securing all their 4-cost upgrades or even pushing a level 9. But an early tempo play and just how stable this unit can be has secured us enough of an HP lead, so we are fine to be delaying our hit, and we have hit top 4 with singly is an Urgot 2 and only that Maokai 3 at this point. And generally it seems that the Lost Streaker players managed to in turn stake each other out. Now this player with the Baron's Lair Battle Bunnies combo could be an absolute threat, and I would imagine that we might have an extremely hard time against them, especially since we are in these locked positions. We are a little bit clumped. It's going to be hard to counter right there. Now we are one off. We are going to be sending it, still going to be sending for that Aurora 3, as we are simply a single off and we have those items to support her. Going for another tank item in form of a Protector's Vow, which is hopefully providing enough stall right there into the Battle Buddy. So let's see how we fare when we have pretty much hit all our board, and as we're not going to be going that much stronger. The Urgot has managed to get it to the back line, but it gets retargeted on the front line. It seems that the only way how we could potentially win is if we are able to make the full stop up there. And is that a Nami 3 right there? I think there is a 3-star 4-cost in our lobby, so our days might be a little bit counted. We do get that karma right there. Now we will have to evaluate. I would have to be looking at the numbers to see if 4 Voyager and level 8 is going to be stronger than simply the stat gain from 4 mech. I would imagine, since we have since our carry is obviously just getting more stats on him is going to be quite strong. Into another artifact setup of Xayah, but now that we have the secondary carry, we are able to find a pick up the win right there. Just going to be leveling to 8 and making that mighty mech there, and hopefully we're trying to assume enable some form of a spread position so we do not get furtherly bursted down by those ballad bunnies, even swapping sides in hopes that we can potentially wrap the Xayah from their strong side, but it's going to be a tough task. And we can see there's ballad bunny and crossbows completely AoEing our bot, and we do take it down. Very extremely well read by Mr. Wasian Iverson right there, how we can get to how we can potentially make the edge of the fight. But now the thing is, we have to do it at least another single time, and they are aware of our tricks right now. Probably we would have to consider hover scouting, but since we have that Voyager emblem, we have more units to be moving around. Just going to be going for that gamble. They're going for a strong side. They did not move, so now the Xayah might have enough time to ramp. We do take that Jhin out, and now we are going to be stuck back on the backline, but we are simply just going to be able to front to back. Now, obviously, this is going to be an extreme game where we have very strong emblems. We do not have an ideal artifact, and we have a very chunky frontline for this 4 brawler. Noting that we can be playing around this 4 brawler was amazing read by Wasian Iverson, and now we're going to be going again since we saw that we are able to go it from the strong side. Now this Jhin is also protected, so they might have a little bit even more ramp. Let's see how we fare. No way to get through, and our Urgot does take him down, so it's still a very close fight. So it seems that the key that we need to achieve is by getting one of their carries down, and this is going to come down all the way to the positioning of this last fight. So are we going to be able to bait them? It seems that they are still defaulting to a single corner, so perhaps in our mind we might that they're finally going to be doing a juke or just simply playing it safe. Cannot seem to exactly level here, so for our last item we only have an item slot on Akali. Anything that could potentially stall could be fine, considering, but if we want to perhaps move any form of items, yes, going to be going for more damage on this Aurora right there. Giant Slayer not exactly sufficient. We do make a last second swap, but it seems that this player still is not going to be budget moving right there. Now the Urgot does get retargeted quite early on since our tank went down, and they're able to pick up a win, but we can see how strong this comp can be once you're able to get, if you hit those conditions and once you're able to get it to that board, you are competing against the best comps in the game and putting them on a fair fight that comes down all the way to the slide positioning optimizations. I would like to thank you for watching, and as usual, this cheat sheet is going to be available in the link down below. A full sheet is coming soon where all cheat sheets are going to be united, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good one.